maybe as well for us to just go a little bit further into the peculiar history of the impact of debt on Haiti. You may or may not know that in 1825, and prior to that, the French insisted at the end of Haiti's War of National Liberation, so really 1804, that the Haitians had to compensate the French planters for the loss of their land, the plantations, and their human property. The Haitians had the view that this made no sense, and for 20 years they refused to make any payments. Then in 1825, a Haitian president called Boyer actually agreed to compensate the French planters. Of course, there was no money in Haiti to do it, strictly speaking, certainly not immediately available to the Haitian state. The French state said, do not worry, we have institutions in Europe which will make this happen. And they brought on board Rothschild, who raised, the money being demanded was 150 million gold francs from Haiti. It was apparently negotiated down to 90 million gold francs. And that loan was raised by Mr. Rothschild and his friends. It wasn't given to Haiti, it was given to the French government to use to compensate the planters, the owners of now destroyed estates in Haiti. The money was, Haiti was responsible for servicing this loan at 5% interest compound, and the generous bankers held on to fully 1/5 of the money that they raised as compensation for raising the loan. Now, the impact of that on Haiti in the following decades was massive and enormous. Haiti was impoverished by this amazing demand from the benevolent international order, the international community, to the effect that you must pay us for having won your freedom from us. And Britain, France, Germany, the United States all joined in supporting France in this. That is what happened in Haiti in the 19th century, and that is fundamental to understanding why Haiti is now as poor as it is. At the beginning of the 20th century, Germany, with no colonies in the Americas, was looking to Haiti to be its first and only colony, its place in the American sun. The war came, and Germany was not able to take over Haiti. But America, the United States of America, famously anti-colonial, famously against Britain and France and Germany for having colonies, invaded and occupied Haiti in 1915 at the start, second year of the First World War, remained there for the next 19 years, and what were they doing? They were organizing or reorganizing Haiti to make it possible for the pattern of exploitation that had been established in the previous century to be intensified. The Haitians resisted. I can't pronounce the man's name. You will help me again.
Charlemagne Perrault.
Yes, that gentleman led a resistance movement to American power during the time that they were there. The Americans eventually defeated this peasant army. They strung up, photographed the body of Peralta to show the Haitians that they had better not resist any further.
What I'd like to add to what Cecil very rightly pointed out is a bit of the Haitian background and the Haitian perspective on this. because, as Cecil intimated, the problem was, and also that came out in the film, is that Haiti never had a strong state. It never built proper state institutions. It never had properly functioning parliament, police forces, judiciaries, legal systems, etc., that we all take for granted. And it's partly being caused by what Cecil rightly pointed out, the split that happened in Haitian society following the successful slave revolution, whereby unfortunately the Haitians found themselves in the position to be left with a plantation economy, and the people who were educated, the people who could run the state, were the mulatto people who had benefited from some education and were at the levers of power, and unfortunately sold themselves to Western interests to exploit the black majority, and that set the train in motion, the situation that we find ourselves in.
The truth of the matter is that the structures that have brought Haiti to the state that it's presently in are overwhelmingly racist, self-interested, exploitative structures that we have to understand and contest and combat if anything is to happen by way of real transformation in that place. So what we need and what needs to connect up the film and we to it is an understanding of those macro structures and how they really ruthlessly exploit in that place and how they need to be moved out of the way.